Thank you for giving us your time today. So, before we begin with the session, I'd like to give you a little introduction for BioXSpace. So, BioXSpace Synergizing STEM is on a mission to bring interdisciplinary learning to the central stage, where learners, high career seekers, researchers, and innovators are prepared for the opportunities that are provided in the 21st century. With this, beginning with the session, I'd like to give our future audience a little brief introduction about you. So, Dr. Anupreet Singh is the Vice President of Operations for Asia Pacific in Commercial Aviation. He has over 16 years of experience of operational and leadership experience, world leading independent specialist in the global management of commercial and business aircrafts, MROs, and OEMs with supply, exchange, lease of airframes, and spare parts. Extreme experience and expertise in the youth development programs globally, helping adults to navigate through the complex challenges of the aviation industry in today's world. So thank you, sir, for giving us your time today. So beginning with the session, I would first like to ask that how did you plan these steps to get into this aviation industry, or was it always your passion to follow, to come up here? You are?
Actually, I says I'm a kind of a prime example of non-aviation related person, as I think one of your theme was that how a non-aviation related person can able to come into the aviation. And by myself, I'm a prime example of that. I was not academically qualified for aerospace or aeronautical when I actually came into the aviation. So aviation was never been a first choice. My initial first choice was military. I'm an ex-military. And I think that organization skills and discipline actually brought me into aviation circle, the way the manufacturing and the sport was going around during that time within my region back in England, where I joined the aviation very first time. And I think the person who used to run this company, who I joined first as experience, he needed somebody which is kind of able to organize their operations, and he needed somebody kind of a robust disciplinary fellow. So he chosen a military guy, ex-military like me, to jump into that. But slowly I realized that aviation is no longer a part of three mechanisms, like whether you fly, or whether you fix it, or whether you serve as a cabin crew. There is a lot of legacies attached to this trade. Hence, I started learning those legacy lines rather than the top three lines. And I become the Professional Operational Fellow. That's how I came to aviation 16 years ago.
Well, that's great to know, sir. So moving on forward, I'd like to know your take on what are the educational requirements in general that students should have if they wish to enter the aviation sector.
The very first primary line is that you need to understand that are you going for a general aviation, like civil aviation, or you're looking into a defense mechanism. But the starting point of these both lines are kind of very similar. And then the next part comes, are you an engineer mindset kind of guy, like you want to make your hand dirty? Then you should be doing aeronautical engineering, a diploma or a degree profession into that. And if you are a kind of a more management, leasing kind of fellow, sales, purchase, commercial for contractual requirements, then you should be doing aviation management degree program, actually. So that's the two basic lines, aeronauticals, engineering, or the aviation management. Going into that, that is quite simple actually to start with.
So, is there any special requirements for aviation management, or in general management is also good to enter the industry?
General management is also good to enter the industry, actually. There is no specific requirement as long as you A-level, O-level, I think in India we say higher secondary, and then you have a normal HND diplomas or anything else to go through. You can jump into the aviation management courses to follow your passion further down.
Okay, thank you. So, what I wanted to ask was that since you have a non-traditional background, what are some of the challenges that you faced coming up into the industry, and how did you address them? And what are some of the specifics that you would like to give to the younger generation so that they don't make the same mistakes?
The the very first difference was in this line, obviously, because I didn't have any background in aviation sector. The narration of the whole aerospace industry was pretty new. The way they talk, if you're sitting with the two doctors, the way they're communicating about a surgery, you will never able to understand half of the things. So for me, it was the same thing happening. People who was fixing the planes or repairing, they're talking in their own quick mode. And for me, it was kind of I should take a backseat because this is not me. And then comes to which is the management guy, commercial leasing fellows, sales fellows actually come through it. The way they were going through the numbers and how the part number perform, what's the quality of the part is, the conditions of that. This all jargon was the toughest one. This took me like good 3-4 months to get familiar with that jargon to go through. And otherwise, the very first 3 months, I probably thought initially, this is my honest feeling that time, being the young guy, I think I joined a wrong line. This trade is not for me because I don't understand how to talk it. But what happened when you slow down all the jargons running around you, your psychology needs to be a little bit more supportive to you in this sense that, yes, this is the path I'm going ahead with it. What's the benefit in this path other people enjoying? So I started looking my seniors, how they're behaving it and what kind of benefits they have being into this line. And whoever came from aviation background and who came from the aviation background, how they're mixing with each other and how they're talking through everything. And that's just give me that I have to make a psychological statement of mine to change. And I start learning from my mistakes. If I didn't learn it the very first time, then I try to learn repeating stuff again, asking the seniors. What I recommended to the youngsters after me who came into this, you need to have a good mentor. The senior who are about to teach you, because you're a non-aviation guy, he might be non-aviation as well, but he's there for years. You need to have a good mentor. And that mentor should need to be on your wavelength. Because a lot of teachers out there, they might be good, but they don't reach to your wavelength. And that psychology match is very important to have it. If you don't fit with one mentor, you should change. Some people are learning hard way. Otherwise, you should have a capacity to stand out and say, okay, I don't understand this. I need to change this mentor in this job. Or I need to change my manager. I need to change my team lead. I need to change my whole department. You need to be a little bit vocal in that sense. But yeah, mentorship is important and start to study people around you. It helps.
Well, that's, I guess, true in every profession, not just aviation.
Roughly, yes. Yeah.
So it's a great tip. Thank you. So, I mean, since you are a vice president of operations for your company, I would like to ask, what are the strengths that you feel are required to be at such a position, and what do you feel are some of the weaknesses that one should overcome in order to reach to that position if one prefers to go up there?
Operation is a very profound combination of the thing, and it's make of a lot of elements, and it's a really vast area that we cover it. So as vast the word is itself, the challenge is also the bigger the same way, and so as the outcomes too on that. The very first initial power that I say to reach to this level is your experience. And you need to make sure you understand the team under you, also listening to you and working on the same wavelength that you like to work into that. Time management is very crucial because plane, it's one of the things that without time, cruciality is ain't going anywhere, and it's a huge damage. A plane grounded on the tarmac, it's like a dead elephant, basically. So it has to keep flying. So time management is very crucial part into that, and your understanding towards the supply chain management in your operations category, it's also very important. And you should be such a powerful leader, or you should have a great charisma in you that you manage to create performance teams. Because being in this seat, it doesn't matter that you are the only greatest one. A people like me on these kind of positions, they're only good as good their team. As
Teams.
like we say, the commander is only good as his soldiers, basically. So you should have a capability to create a performance team. And I think that's the biggest strength actually I had in 16 years to reach to this stage. The challenges comes with it. The more you know, more demands grow with that because you know. And you tend to jump into every challenges to overcome. And you end up having some time tunnel vision because you're a problem solver. You're running on a time frame and you end up having a tunnel vision, and with that actually problem comes, you can't able to find new solutions about same problem. And that's why the performance team actually help you because they are brand new. They see the same thing different way. They have a little bit more bird eye view to look into it rather than your tunnel vision. So yeah, experience bring the tunnel vision behavior too. So knowledge actually live or die, it happens. And experienced people can't able to let their past go easily because they have grown up with that. They have a style, but that style sometimes save everything. That style create team, and team save the commander. I think that's where they go hand to hand.
Yeah. Well, that's great to know. So, I mean, what I wanted to ask was, since we are doing this for the younger generation, would you prefer the students coming to you with a little bit of internship or training in your industry? And if you do, I mean, what would you recommend they should intern in or train in if they're not coming, if they're coming in the management level, since you are not in the technical thing? So, what all internships or training that you would like for your new interns or new trainees to have before they join?
Normally, like my team consists of basically technical and non-technical people, both. However, I'm non-technical in that sense. I'm not an engineer that I don't see the parts to get fixed or the aircraft itself. However, I sell the aircraft and deal with the team who fixing it. So normally people who, in our office back in Singapore, yes, internship teams, we took it from the past few years, young students, and from my past experience and for the new ones who's coming to us or who are going to listen to this, what we are talking. If you are in a management side of view, then you need to understand it, how the procurement and the supply chain works in aviation, in component support. So parts, sales, support is important part. Component support is important part. Power by the hour is an important part in aircraft industries to go through. They need to understand how this works, how the stock distribution work of these things. And that's we normally try to teach the youngsters who come for the internship to us, so they can have the zest of how the supply chain of the whole component system works. For a new one, for the old one, whether it's for defense, whether it's for commercial aviation, the basics is the same on there. And then from there, they can decide themselves which specific line they want to go further. Some people are goes into contract making only. Commercial side, they are a little bit more into accountant behavior. Commerce guys become fellows, and they are on the contract side. Some goes into legal counsel, like public policies field people, actually law students. They go into legal counsel of aviation. And general sales purchase guys are basically everybody who came from any general management background. They jump into the sales, purchase, and procurement side or the component support. And very specific technical background people, actually, if they don't want to make their hand dirty on the hangar, they actually come in the technical programs for the aviation management on office side or on site with the client. So there is a few lines we actually try to advise further.
Okay. So adding on to this, so since you are a company based in Singapore, do you guys have any funded programs for Indian students they can join from the entry level, or anything that would help them go faster in the aviation industry or something like that?
We don't have. At the moment, we're only doing for the local Singaporeans because company is only growing for the past 6 years. However, we have had initial chat and a combination talk with the Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, plus Indian Chamber of Commerce back in Nagpur, who had 2 MROs recently, which was last week talk happened. to start a JV program that can able to support youngsters at some point. If the commerce and industry partners can able to shake hands, which is obviously purely a government decision to do so at some point. If that happens, then obviously we will jump on board as well to support.
Okay, well, that's great to know for the newer generation. So, I guess so. This is the last question I'd be asking you, wrapping up the interview. So, what has been your best moment all throughout your career that shines that you have reached, and this is something that I can do, and I've done good with my life? Any moment that comes to your mind?
I think I'm the youngest Indian out there in aviation industry in a private company, world's biggest private company at the moment. I'm the youngest Indian out there who actually managed to have 4 PBH wins in one emerging country at the same time. 4 years ago. So I think nobody else had that. I had that in one day. And so that's the only proud moment we have it. And we actually also, I lead also United Nations Sustainable Goal Development as well for Asia Pacific too. And we try to merge aviation sustainability into that. Plus the gastronomic travel, where the aviation and food mix, tourism comes. So that's also another legacy I lead within my company under the United Nations World Tourism Organization at this moment.
Well, congratulations on that. And it's good to know that when you have the drive, you can reach anywhere you want. So before we end, do you have anything you want to add for our audience, or you want to say?
Yeah, sure. I mean, any young guy out there, aviation is glamorous, that I can say, but it's tough too. Because you have to understand it, which side of line you want to choose it. If you're an engineer, obviously it's a long 9 hours on the tarmac, you have to deal with it. However, if you're manufacturing engineering goes into that line, you're in the AC unit and you're making planes. It's one of the biggest things you're going to come across. But if you're going into aviation management, on the other hand, then if you have a dream to travel and make some uncanny deals in the world, then aviation is your way to go forward, though.
Yeah.
That's how.